Okay, for this warm-up, you're going to need a lacrosse ball, and you're going to need a nice smooth surface, a wall or the back of a dugout or anything you guys can find. It's a nice smooth surface that you can use, and you'll see why later. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to work with this lacrosse ball. Alright, so what I'm going to do is every player should have their own lacrosse ball. These are nice and cheap. They cost like $1.50, $2 a piece. Okay, what you're going to do is you're going to lay face down. And you're going to start with one hand behind your back, right in the small of your back, with the top of my hand right there on my back. Then I'm going to take this lacrosse ball and I'm going to put it right underneath my shoulder. I want to make sure when I do this that I'm not going down into my armpit too low, that I'm staying up on the ball of my shoulder and up towards the top of my chest, up in my pectoralis minor. So I'm just going to kind of roll around where I feel it nice and tender. Okay, where the sore spot where you feel is where you want to kind of focus on, just rolling around, trying to roll out some of those little knots right there. Okay, spend about 30 seconds on one side, and then you'll switch. And you'll do 30 seconds on the other side, right here. Once you get done with that, then we'll move up to the wall. Okay, on the second part on the wall, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this lacrosse ball, I'm going to place it right on the back of my shoulder. The first part I was working right there in the front, and now I'm going to work right on the back. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lean into this wall, put that lacrosse ball right in the bottom of my shoulder, and I'm just going to kind of roll it around the back, just like I did in the front. When I find the spot that you'll feel it's really, really painful, it's a nice, sharp, tight pain, what you're going to do then is just press into that knot, and you're just going to try to raise your hand up through the range of motion, all the way to the top, trying to get your bicep touching your ear, nice and slow, and then back down. You'll feel it get real tight as you do that. So just kind of roll around, find that spot, press in, and then raise up and back down about 5 times on that. And then you can continue to kind of roll around in there once again for about 30 seconds on each side. Okay, so you'll do the internal rotator on the front on the ground, and then you'll switch to your external rotator up on the wall. All right, once again, this is kind of a free stretch, so you just have to get in there and kind of practice and feel where you need to get in. Make sure that while you're doing this, you're not feeling any fingers going numb or anything like that. You want to make sure you're not on any nerves. So if you start to feel your arm going numb or anything like that, just release off and try to stay away from that spot. Usually if you get too low down in your armpit, in the front or in the back, that's when you might start to feel that. So make sure you stay up towards the top of your shoulder there, like we talked about. All right? Alright, the next one we're going to do here is called the no money drill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up nice and tall right against this wall. Now if we don't have a wall, you can also, it can work if you stand, players stand back to back. Okay, so if we're back to back or I'm standing up nice and tall up against the wall, elbows in at my side. From here, all I'm going to do is keep my elbows pinched in as tight as I can, bring my hands out as far to the side, and then back in. Keep my elbows back against the wall or back against my partner and pinched in nice and tight. I'm going to do 10 reps, nice and smooth right there. Just like this, staying up nice and tall, keeping those elbows in and press back against the wall. 10 times. Then I'm going to shift from that to what's called the internal-external rotation. So from here, I'm going to stand up nice and tall here, and I'm just going to make sure I have a 90-degree angle. I want a 90-degree angle right here at my elbow and right here at my shoulder. Okay, and from there, I'm just going to rotate down and back up. Notice how I keep a nice straight line all the way down my body, all the way across from elbow to elbow as I rotate down and back up. Making sure I don't drop those elbows, keeping everything lined up, really trying to force it down there as far as I can get it. And then once again, back up the other way, 10 times, nice and smooth. Okay, internal, external rotation. Okay, this next one, depending on how much space you have, you can do one or the other. So the first one, if you have enough space, is a seated wall slide. Okay, so I'm going to sit on my butt with my back pressed up against this wall. I'm going to take my arms, once again, I want that 90-degree angle at my elbow, 90-degree angle at my shoulder. Okay, and from here I'm going to make sure that the back of my wrist, the back of my shoulder, and the back of my elbow, all 3 points, are pressed up against that wall. And I'm just going to raise up, keeping my wrists, elbows, and shoulders all pressed up against the wall. No space. Stretching up as far as I can, and then back down. Nice and smooth. 10 times. Now, if you're able to do that, and you're not having too much trouble, you scoot your butt in. The closer you get your butt into the wall, the harder this gets. So it makes it a lot harder to stretch all the way up to the top and then back down. If you're not as flexible, you have to scoot away from the wall a little bit farther to go through your full range of motion, all the way up to where your elbows lock out and then back down. All right, you'll do 10 reps there. Now, if you don't have quite as much room, you can stand side by side and do what's called a forearm wall slide. So I'm going to place my forearms right up against the wall. I want to get as close as I can to that wall. I'm just going to walk right in until my elbows touch, right here. I'm just going to walk in, and as soon as my elbows touch the wall, that's when I stop. So I walk in, right here. From there, I'm just going to raise my elbows straight up the wall, keeping my forearms pressed in. As you raise up, you don't want to lean into that wall. As you press up, you want to stay up nice and tall and just press straight up and back down, making sure as you press your elbows in and slide, you're not leaning into the wall. 10 times nice and smooth. So you can either do the seated wall slides or the forearm wall slides, depending on how much room you have and what you're working with. Okay, same thing goes for this one now. Depending on how much room you guys have to work with, you can either do, if you have some more room, you can do the wall squats. If you don't have as much room, you can do the squat to stand. So the first one is the wall squat. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk right up to this wall until my toes hit. Take my hands and I want to place them slightly wider than my shoulders. Right here, so I'm in a nice wide position. And all I'm going to do is squat. Keep my elbows locked out. Squat down as low as I can without falling backwards. Keeping those elbows locked out nice and low. And then back up. As you're going down, if you feel yourself start to fall away from the wall, that's when you know you need to come up. So go down as far as you can. You're about to fall, and then come back up. You go 10 of those. Now, if you don't have access to the wall to do that, you're going to do a squat to stand. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to bend over. I'm going to stand flat-footed, and I'm going to bend over with my feet about shoulder width apart. And I'm going to grab the bottom of my shoes right here with my hands. Okay, so right now my back is rounded, my knees are bent, and I'm nice and relaxed, just bent over. Then from here, I'm going to drop my butt, try to stick my chest out, and keep my feet, keep my heels down as much as I can. Sticking my chest out, pulling my shoulders back, holding on to my feet right here. All right? And then relax. You drop back down and hold for about 5 seconds. And then once again, relax. You do that for 5 reps. And then on the 5th one, hold it for 10. Just like that. Right there. That is a squat to stand.